To be clear, this operation is separate and distinct from Operation Epic Fury. Project Freedom is defensive in nature, focused in scope, and temporary in duration, with one mission: protecting innocent commercial shipping from Iranian aggression. American forces won't need to enter Iranian waters or airspace. It's not necessary. We're not looking for a fight, but Iran also cannot be allowed to block innocent countries and their goods from an international waterway. Iran is the clear aggressor, harassing civilian vessels, threatening mariners from every nation indiscriminately, and weaponizing a critical choke point for its own financial benefit, or at least trying to.
I mean, you're doing a lot of work to try to convince the American people that Iran is the aggressor when it was the United States that decided to enter an illegal war, start an illegal war against Iran at the behest of Israel. But nonetheless, the ceasefire with Iran, according to the Trump administration, is still intact. But Project Freedom, which of course is meant to safely guide cargo vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, is allegedly a temporary operation, according to Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. And it's probably a temporary mission because we don't have the weaponry necessary to shoot down Iran's drones or their boats in an effort to help guide various vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. But I've got more details in a second. Cenk, your brief 2 cents.
Yeah, so 2 things about this. One is, we'll get to why, all the reasons why what Hegseth said is not just horse crap, but why they're saying it in this exact way, right? What they're trying to accomplish, which is super goofy in my opinion. It's all wordplay, but it affects legal options here. The second thing we're gonna talk about is, what in the world are we trying to accomplish now? And because Iran has already offered the exact terms we want. So that leads to this mystery that we're in today. So Anna, I'll give you the facts and then we'll analyze.
So the latest reporting on Iran in the Wall Street Journal specifically claims that Trump desperately wants to avoid restarting the hot war with Iran. So actual fighting, actual bombing, that kind of stuff. And even though we are still at war technically with Iran, over the past few days, Trump has downplayed it as a mini war. He's also referred to it as a little skirmish. In fact, we have some of that on tape, so let's take a quick look at that.
Our country's booming now, despite the fact that we're in I call it a mini war, because that's all they are. They don't have a Navy anymore.
You know, we hit an all-time high stock market today, despite that we're in a little skirmish, military. I call it a skirmish because Iran has no chance.
I want to curl up in the fetal position and rock back and forth. Like this is so embarrassing. Okay, so it's worth noting that the language has changed over time. Trump's language on this has changed over time. February 28th, the day that he started the war, he referred to it as a major combat operation. March 1st, 4-week process. By the way, we've already passed the 2-month mark. March 9th, just an excursion. March 11th, excursion that will keep us out of a war. Mind you, we were in a war and continue to be in a war. March 26th, little detour. April 16th, little diversion. May 1st, hostilities have terminated. Today, mini war.
Soon it'll be little Marco. So the reason why he's changing all these terms is because once you get to 60 days, Congress has to vote on it. So that's why Hegseth was like, well, Epic Fury's over, so you don't have to vote on that. This is a new mission, not war, because we're not gonna vote on war. And this will give us another 60 days. And this is called Project Freedom. So we have found a legal loophole so that Congress doesn't have to authorize this war. Well, that's semantics and nonsense. Congress can just vote on it. Obviously, it's the same exact war. Why is the Strait of Hormuz blocked and the Iranians are aggressors? Yeah, if you minus the fact that we bombed the living crap out of their country just like a minute ago, right? So it's absurd on every count.
You cannot have your cake and eat it too. You cannot be aligned with Israel and do Israel's bidding and not embarrass the American people with your actions in regard to Iran. So we're not stupid. There are no kamikaze dolphins. Like, please stop. Please, for the love of God, please stop saying humiliating things before the American people, treating them as if they're total morons. Take the deal from Iran if members of the Trump administration are legitimately, shaking in their boots about enriched uranium. Take the deal, say that you won, okay, spin it as a big victory, and for Israel, to calm them down, deuces, done, we're done with you, we're moving on. I know that's not gonna calm them down, they're gonna freak out, but who cares? Tiny little irrelevant country in the Middle East that dragged us into a war that we shouldn't have been dragged into. End it now, but of course that's not gonna happen. Trump knows who his daddy is. So now let's watch Pete Hegseth get flustered when asked about Trump's shifting rhetoric.
I want to first express my gratitude and admiration for the work you do and for everyone involved in our armed forces. On the first day of this conflict, President Trump addressed the Iranian people directly and said, when we're finished, take over your government. It'll be yours to take. And then on the 7th day of the conflict, in a Truth Social post, the president said, quote, there will be no deal with Iran except, all caps, exclamation mark, unconditional surrender. What happens to that pledge to the Iranians? And when did the president decide to capitulate on his demand for unconditional surrender?
Well, James, I wouldn't. You started out nicely, but you ended exactly where we knew you would end. The president hasn't capitulated on anything. He holds the cards. We maintain the upper hand, and Project Freedom only strengthens that hand.
You're a little bitch. That's what you are, Hegseth. Okay, this is such a waste of time, and the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Okay, we can't just keep shooting down drones and fighting the Iranians as we're trying to help guide vessels through the strait. You have to use diplomacy to end this. But here's the problem. We have two countries involved in this fight against Iran, and these two countries have different objectives. Israel doesn't want it to end because they want regime change or a failed state. The United States, in my opinion, doesn't even care about the enriched uranium, but is pretending to care about the enriched uranium in order to, I don't know, keep us in this war that doesn't benefit the American people at all in any way, shape, or form.
Don't forget, Noble Mobile saving you a ton of money. So a lot of people are signing up now and beginning to realize, what the hell, why am I paying so much to Verizon and AT&T? So your bill's only $50 a month, but it can actually be less because they give you money back if you don't use your data. So if you're paying more than $50, there's no reason to not switch. It's crazy not to switch because same phone, same number, same contacts, literally nothing changes. TYT.com/switch, TYT.com/switch. All right, we'll be right back.
Just a few more details here, Cenk, and then I'll go to you. Yesterday, the Wall Street Journal reported that Trump is conflicted about what to do next with Iran, which is incredibly obvious to anyone paying attention. US officials say that Trump for days has toggled between two competing impulses, severely punishing Iran for failing to abandon its nuclear work and avoiding a significant escalation that could draw the US deeper into a Middle East conflict. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal, President Trump is genuine, sincere in wanting to end Iran's enrichment of uranium, but he does not want to resume US strikes, probably because our weapons have been depleted. Trump believed that the US could get concessions from Iran by blockading the Strait of Hormuz. You did get concessions, you didn't take it, but nonetheless, Iran has yet to make an offer that Trump likes, but I don't know how much further Iran could possibly go to please President Trump. Like, what more do you want? They offered to end their nuclear enrichment program.
Yeah. So look, there's a lot more things that are clear now and still some that are left to be decided. First, a couple of small points. They keep saying that Iran is the aggressor because they want to frame it as we didn't start a war. We're just doing self-defense here. Look, for the MAGA guys that are still watching Fox News, yeah, sure, you could tell them that, that Iran attacked Missouri and they'll believe it, right? So he doesn't even have to bother with that lie and no one else believes him. So that's point one. So point two, I'm really worried that the stock market is accidentally encouraging him. Since the market hasn't crashed because they keep believing him like morons, he keeps going, well, the stock market's fine, so I guess we should continue the war, because what he was really worried about was when the war first started, the markets crashed, and that upsets rich people, so that greatly upset Trump, and he was super worried about it. Then the market lost its mind. They're like, the war's over. Who cares? Who cares? And now Trump has now said repeatedly, you saw it one time, but I've seen it many times. He's like, the market's fine, so everything's good, so we can keep going in the war. Oh yeah,
everything is not fine. Not only is the price of oil and gas skyrocketing right now and is only going to increase more because of limited supply due to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, we have a shortage of fertilizer, and American farmers are devastated by that, and it's only going to get worse. 1/3 of the world's fertilizer comes or is transported through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
So like, no, everything is not fine. Inflation is already hitting us. It's only gonna get worse. Oh, but the precious stock market, the precious stock market's doing so well. The wealthy are okay. They can afford a little bit of inflation when it comes to food and gas and things that, working class Americans are struggling with. Who cares? Stock market's doing well.
Not a single donor cares about the price of gas. They're so rich that doesn't affect them at all. It's 0.01% of their salary, let alone income and wealth, etc. So for them, the gas price is totally irrelevant. The only thing that's irrelevant is the beloved stock market, okay? So, all right, so that's a bad incentive and a bad misunderstanding by Trump there. Okay, now to the main point that Anna's making about this war, I had to go back and double check because I'm like, everyone in American media seems to be saying that Iran didn't offer to end their enrichment program. But I swear I saw in their peace offer that they basically offered to end it. So I went back and double checked. Yeah, they did. They promised zero stockpile of enrichment. They promised that there would be no enrichment for years, and that enrichment would be kept to between 3 and 3.6%, which is nowhere near a weapons possibility, not within a miles of it.
You need 90% enrichment to build a nuclear weapon.
So wait a minute. Iran definitively already offered to end their enrichment program that could be turned into a weapon. No question, no doubt. Okay, I get Trump is lying about it. I get Israel is lying about it because they have always wanted that as an excuse to go into the war and to stay in the war. Why is all of American media lying about it? It's insane, guys. It's in black and white. There is no question. In fact, those outlets reported on it. Then they had collective amnesia, which they do all the time. And the very next day, they all pretended Iran didn't offer to end their enrichment program. It is insane.
Literally, hold on, let me also remind everybody, literally days before the US struck Iran and started the war, you had the Omani mediator, the person involved in the negotiations between the United States and Iran, go on one of those Sunday shows and tell Margaret Brennan that the Iranians were willing to give up enrichment of uranium, that the talks were actually making some progress. And what's really interesting is Steve Witkoff went and lied and said, no, that's not the case. They have enriched uranium enough and have enough of it to build X number of bombs in the next week, which was totally false. He lied, he sabotaged peace. Gee, I wonder why. Why did Steve Witkoff do that? Why did he lie to the American people about Iran? Anyway,
so that's 3 times that they've offered to end their enrichment program, including one time that they did. That was the Obama deal, right? So, and then Israel's like, oh, you ended your weapons program. We hate that because that was going to be an excuse for us. That's all literal. We all know that was if you ask a reporter, did they end their weapons program under the Obama deal? They will say, yes, they did. And then when we got out of it, did we not use it as an excuse to go attack them? Yes, we did, right? Did they not offer right before the war to end their enrichment program again? Yes, they did. Did they just not offer it literally 2 days ago? Yes, they did. So why are you all saying and pretending that Hegseth and Trump, when they say, well, we've got to prevent the nukes. The only thing we're in this war because we don't want a nuclear weapon exploded, as if they're gonna hit San Antonio tomorrow. I mean, look, guys, I grew up in a mainstream media that was filled with propaganda. The whole point was propaganda, but it was subtle. And they were really, really good at it. Now they're getting over the top. I heard that same Wall Street Journal article that Anna's talking about, it was comical. It would frame it all in terms of, well, Donald Trump is trying to stop the war, but Iran has attacked again. Are you kidding me? Now you're just flat out lying.
No, I know, that's exactly right. So look, this is how consent is manufactured, right? So look, this war was never about nuclear weapons. It was never about nuclear weapons. Considering the fact that there was a nuclear deal in place with checks and balances to ensure that Iran is not building a nuke, is not enriching uranium to the point where they have the materials to build a nuke. That was in place thanks to what Obama accomplished in his second term. Trump comes in, rips it up, which paves the way for Iran to enrich uranium. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? And that was used as, in their minds, leverage in the negotiations with the United States. But there is no negotiation with the United States when Israel is involved. Because for Israel, this was never about nuclear weapons. It was never about their ballistic missiles. It was always about regime change or a failed state. Either one would be good enough for Israel. They want to weaken Iran so they can do, honestly, exactly what they've been doing for the last 2.5 years. Expanding into territory that doesn't belong to them, including in Lebanon.
So I'm gonna get to Israel and Lebanon real quick in a second, but I wanna give you guys a sense of what the Wall Street Journal said so you know that I'm not exaggerating. So this is a very typical paragraph in the middle of the story. They say, now Trump has little choice but to make a decision between ordering a fresh round of airstrikes against Iran or brushing off Tehran's provocations and charging ahead with his diplomatic initiative.
He has little choice. That's an opinion in what's supposed to be a straight news article, right? That's an opinion.
And not only that, they make it seem like Trump's the victim of Iran here, and that he has no choice. I mean, and the two things that he's considering is either matching Iran's terrible provocations that they're obviously at fault for, or continuing in his benighted and holy mission, diplomatic mission to resolve this. Now the propaganda is so thick you could see it. That's insane, right?
What would happen if?
It's embarrassing, by the way. I mean, if you're the reporter who wrote that, please retire.
Let's see, what was that reporter's name?
Yeah.
I can look it up right now as we speak.
Yeah,
Alexander Ward.
Yeah, Alexander Ward, just humiliating. Okay, no, just retire. Okay, so now, look, here's another thing that our media is, I've seen it. That's why their framing is amazing. So I had to go and double check this one too. One of our warships was hit. And they actually write it in like paragraph 17, paragraph 32. One of our warships was hit by the Iranians as it was trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz.
Operation Freedom.
That's not a small little, that's a giant headline. Holy cow, Iran hit one of our warships. And they're like, yeah, I mean, I am including the fact, so you can't criticize me, they hit one of our warships. And then they're like, as if it's no big deal. And then they're all pretending like the Strait of Hormuz is almost open.
Yeah.
It's unreal. So guys, the two things that are gonna be determinative here is, well, the number one thing is Israel. They're gonna make the decision and then they're gonna let us know. And they've made that decision. That was the thrust of our show yesterday when they sent out all their pundits from all the different areas, all with the same talking point, saying, oh no, we have to do one of two things, go back in and do a regime change. So they're back all the way to the regime change, or we have to really heavily arm the Iranians. And that's the cause of civil war. So we've told you many times, plan A for Israel is regime change, put in a puppet that'll serve them. Plan B is a devastating civil war that'll probably kill millions of people in Iran, but that'll keep them busy so that Israel is the only regional superpower. So Israel is not going to pause. And that leads to the second thing, which is they definitely want Lebanon, and they again have made it absolutely clear now. There was a little period there of a couple of weeks where their intentions were not perfectly clear because they had taken a lot of hits, and it looked like maybe they're concerned that they're running out of interceptor missiles for Iron Dome. Maybe they got hit too hard in Lebanon and they're rethinking it. But they've regrouped and they've made a final decision. They're definitely going to continue in Lebanon and they want us to definitely continue in Iran. So actually, if we're right, that means the die is already cast. Because we don't believe America is in control of the American government. We believe Israel's in control of the American foreign policy. So the rest is all window dressing. You'll see with your own eyes probably in a couple of days or a couple of weeks whether we're right or wrong about that. But right now, it's important for you to know the actual facts because you're really not getting them in mainstream media. They're burying them.
If you're ever asking yourself what the intentions are of the Israelis, look at the options, look at the possibilities, and always pick the absolute worst intentions, because that's what they're gonna pursue. That has been their intention from the very beginning. So far 17 Israeli soldiers have been killed in Lebanon since March 2nd. So they are paying a bit of a price. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if they're able to capture the entirety of Lebanon at this point, because they've already made clear we're taking southern Lebanon. And they're already talking about settling it. And by the way, those settlers are probably gonna deal with some resistance, some attacks. And I don't wanna hear anybody forcing me or pressuring me to feel empathy or sympathy for any of them, because I won't. That's stolen land, it's blood-soaked land, and this is what the Israelis do again and again, and then they make themselves out to be precious little victims when they're targeted by the resistance.
Yeah, anyone who does that, which is almost all of national media, are obviously propagandists who work for Israel. So I don't want to hear any of their nonsense. And when they start crying their crocodile tears about, oh, we're so worried about bigotry, please, we can't stand your lies anymore. We're vomiting your lies. So the final point is a quick one. I've now started reading, Anna, in national media again, 2 different articles. They don't say that Hezbollah are terrorists for killing the 17 IDF soldiers that are invading their homes and their land, because that's a bridge too far. It's so obviously wrong.
Looting homes, by the way, as well.
And looting them and putting them on tape. Haha, we're robbing them before we kill them and destroy their homes, etc. But what they're saying now is they're saying, well, Israel was forced to attack, and then 17 Israeli soldiers have been killed by Hezbollah, making it seem like Hezbollah is the aggressor. I mean, come on.
I'm done with it.
But if you read, these papers, New York Times, Washington Post, etc., you'll get the impression that poor Israel is about to lose all of their territory and maybe their entire existence. They're down to a tiny amount of land, and Hezbollah and Iran keeps aggressively attacking them for no reason at all, but because they hate Jews, right? And so the propaganda is unbearable.
Yeah.
And obviously they've taken over our media, because no objective reporter would ever report it like this. It's over the top. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.